That is a catchy countdown. Welcome, everyone. This is the pre-concert talk for Gypsy Strings. My name is Scott Seaton, Music Director of the North State Symphony. And thank you all so much for coming out. It's a balmy Tuesday here in California. And it's so nice to talk about music and to detach from the stresses of the everyday world for a little while. So welcome, and I want to thank our sponsors, and first of all, our wonderful pre-concert sponsors are Richard and Pat Macias. Without them, none of these informative sessions could take place, so thank you all so much. Must thank our season sponsor, Dignity Health, because they're our season sponsor and they're amazing. And we also have our months of music sponsors for the fall, which are Nina Perry and Dan Pertzer, James Malin, Patty and Gary Mullett, and Elsie McIntyre. So thank you all so much for your incredible support of the North State Symphony. And we hope to get more people involved and to get as many excited about what we're doing as possible. So this program, Gypsy Strings, was actually co-curated by one of our very own fine musicians, and that is our concertmaster, Terry Bonds. So we can expect to chat more about that when we bring the musicians in later. I wanted to start with just by talking about what is gypsy music. And in a nutshell, gypsies originated from India and migrated all over Europe, and they fused their own style of music with folk elements of every region and culture over Europe and that whole region that they encountered. And these Romani people migrated from India just before the year, I think it was 1000, and headed that way. Now, this music can be described as mainly slow, plaintive songs with fast melodies, and when they are fast melodies, they have a strong dance component to it. And so with that, we jump into our program, and the first piece you're going to hear is one of the most well-known, and that is Johannes Brahms. And the piece that we've picked for this program is his Piano Quartet number 1 in G minor, and we're doing the 4th movement. Now, some of the composers on this program have more connections than just utilizing gypsy-inspired music in their works. When most picture Brahms, for example, we think of a somber fellow with a giant beard who was in love with his mentor's wife, his mentor being Robert Schumann, which is the second composer on this month's program. But many of us are familiar with his 4 symphonies. But at just 26 years old, Brahms created this vibrant work that you're going to hear this week. And this was the 3rd and one of the most notable of his 26 chamber music compositions. It achieved much notable recognition, including from Arnold Schoenberg, who went on to arrange it for full orchestra, which is one of my all-time favorite arrangements for orchestra, and I would love to do it with North State Symphony in the coming seasons. So look for that. It's just incredible. And if you're curious, go online, and I'm sure there's a Berlin Philharmonic recording that you can check out. So Brahms was mostly a recluse. He mostly hid to himself. He wasn't an extrovert by any means. He was very much hiding behind this beard, which is more of a metaphor than anything else. But he did meet some very important musicians, and we look at this connection between not only Brahms and gypsy music, but also Brahms and Robert Schumann. Now, in 1850, Brahms met Hungarian refugee violinist Edward Remini, and was introduced to a whole range of folk and gypsy music that would influence his music for years to come. After they started their relationship, they would then go on tour and do recitals together. And one of these performances impressed another famous violinist by the name of Joseph Joachim, who would build a strong friendship and a strong collaborative entity that would be only derailed later in life when Brahms took Joachim's wife's side during their divorce. That's a whole story, and I won't get into that. But I digress. Now, the point here is that it was a letter from Joachim that fueled Brahms in a visit to Robert Schumann's home in 1853. He had gone before, but the first visit in early years was uneventful and nothing came of it. But now, armed with this letter, Schumann took notice of the young Brahms and was deeply enthralled by his musical ability during this private performance that happened in Robert Schumann's home. He even called his wife Clara to come in and listen. It was a very intimate experience. Now, at this point, he heard Brahms, the connection was made, and Schumann praised this enormous ability of this young Brahms in one very famous music journal that helped really launch his career into the spotlight. And the two had a close relationship from then on out. And Brahms even moved closer when Schumann was exhibiting health issues, especially mental health issues, and had even attempted suicide. And that's when Brahms really stepped up and was there to help manage family issues and to be right alongside Clara in helping to comfort her and figure everything out for the family. Now, the movement that the last movement of the piano quartet is a gypsy rondo, and it alternates between this driving, insistent first theme, which is and sort of a soaring, melodic, contrasting departure to momentarily just slow the heart rate down for a little bit. Now, this movement was written in a 2/4 meter, a very common meter, and it actually utilizes something called dactyl, which is this technique that has a strong accent followed by 2 minor pulses. And for example, the word poetry has a dactyl accent: poetry, poetry, poetry. And some think this applies to each measure of the music, but I believe it's better felt on a larger scale. So for example, if each bar is ya, da, di, da, 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 di. So think of it as a larger architecture, a larger way to feel it. It's ya, da, ya, ba, 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 bi, da, ya, da, ya, ba, 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 da, da, da. So we're feeling it in 3, the heavily emphasized first bar, and then sort of the lighter following 2 bars, which really act as an anacrusis, a giant upbeat to the next big statement. So we're actually going to now just listen to one of the middle sections of this fast-paced rondo that you're actually going to hear in the performance. So here that is. Listen to that all night long, and I can't wait to hear it again this Thursday. So yes, that's a small excerpt of what you're going to hear for the Brahms Piano Quartet, the 4th movement. So next up is Robert Schumann and his Piano Trio number 3 in G minor, also the 4th movement. And this was written in 1851. Now, we already talked about Schumann as a whole and his relationship, his very unique relationship with Brahms. But yes, he's the great mentor of this young people of Johannes Brahms. And this trio was written just 2 years before Brahms and Schumann started to build this successful relationship that they had. Now, 10 years after the 4th Symphony of Schumann's was when this trio was composed, but it was composed at actually the same time that the 4th Symphony underwent a heavy revision in 1851. What's interesting about this is that Clara Schumann stated that this symphony had only been sketched in 1841 and orchestrated, sketched in 1841 and orchestrated in 1851. But Brahms published the original version in 1891, despite much objection from Clara, who he was in love with. So that just tells you how good the music was to Brahms. So, you know, there must have been something very powerful about the Fourth Symphony for Brahms to go against one of the only people that he deeply cared about. Now, both the Fourth Symphony and this trio, we see that Schumann loved these moments of wandering stepwise motion, these scalar passages that sort of weave in and out of tone, sometimes chromatic, sometimes not. Now we hear, especially in the trio, these moments of reflection, or maybe even moments of trepidation or hesitation or just uncertainty. I was going to play you a clip at this point, but we're having some technical demands that aren't quite suitable for this platform. But when you hear it on Thursday, you'll hear this which is very similar to what Schumann employed in his Fourth Symphony. It's like, because both were on his mind at that point, they both were borrowed and influenced each other. Borrowed from and influenced each other. So again, we have the form of a rondo here. And some of the opening and this theme that you should listen for that keeps returning to keep the whole work together, I'm going to play for you now. But just to reiterate this idea of rondo. Rondo is when you have this initial idea and you digress from it several times. And so you're going to have this initial statement and then something else, and then the restatement of the original stuff, and then another digression, and then another restatement of the piece. And that's usually when it ends, unless it's a more extended rondo. So I'm going to play you a little bit of the first part of this trio where you can hear what's going to be the repeating melodic content. Here we go. What I love about that is not just the melody as a whole, but the way he uses that syncopation, the way he deliberately gives these emphasis, these accents to beats that are not the strong beats typically in those bars. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So a fun little melody. And finally, the last big piece on the program, sort of as I call it sometimes, the steak of the concert, is by a relatively unknown composer. Now, at least unknown now, but in his time, which is 1847 to 1902, August Klugart achieved a good deal of success. But somehow it all disappeared. But he was a composer who was heavily influenced by Robert Schumann and even a little bit by our first composer on the program, Johannes Brahms. All very interesting. And I'm sure Terry can talk much more about how she had the idea to bring all three of these wonderful composers together. But August Klugart was born in Germany and studied music locally, even making a living as a conductor. And an important period in his life is when he lived in Weimar for 4 years, starting in 1869. And once there, he met Franz Liszt. And while he learned quite a bit, ultimately rejected what was happening compositionally speaking at the time. All these trends in composition that were pushing everybody in lots of new and exciting directions, and this whole new German school that was going on. He didn't really want to participate in. He didn't want to write tone poems like Liszt did, and he was a very conservative composer in that respect. He loved writing symphonies, he loved writing chamber music, and he was an outcast from Wagner and Liszt, and they, especially Wagner, pushed him away because of that, because he didn't want to go with the times. And so after he died, all of his music, save a couple of works, pretty much disappeared. Now this work, this string quartet, quintet in G minor, was composed in 1890 when August was just 43 years old. And you'll see in its outer movement, its first and fourth movements, this gypsy influence. They're full of this gypsy flair. In the first movement, we have this distinct fanfare motive in the beginning that is immediately followed by a free and unaccompanied first violin solo. The Hungarian second theme suggests that this movement might even be a tribute to Johannes Brahms. So I'm going to give you now just a little portion of this movement. This is the middle part of the movement where you hear this fanfare theme that also opened the work, and then it leads into something completely different. So here we go. Such great music. The second movement is a theme and variations. And that just means that you're going to have this beautiful theme, this very simple and very singable theme, and then several variations on it. And here's what that's going to sound like. And the third movement is inspired from the minuet, but it's a mere cousin. You'll see it's not what you expect if you listen to like a minuet by Mozart or by Haydn. But it also draws inspiration from Brahms, even borrowing from one of his string quartets. And here's what you can expect when you listen to that. Wonderful. And then we finally get to the last movement, the finale, which is blinding from the amount of gypsy pizzazz that it encompasses. Some people even say that it rivals the piano quartet, the first piece on the program. So we can let you decide, especially when you hear it on Thursday. But here's a portion of the last movement, which is, again, is one of the two primarily gypsy-inspired movements of this Klugart string quintet. So here we go. It leaves you hanging. Oh, but so yeah, those are what you can expect with the music, and it's going to be a great program. Now is a very special part of the program where I'm actually inviting our musicians, and we have most of which who are playing in this concert on Thursday to join us and chat for a little bit. So let's see if we can invite them to the program. We have Carol Jacobson, we have Terry Bonner, concertmaster, we have Principal Violas Leah Carl, and Li Yuan Ho, our assistant concertmaster. So there we go. Welcome to the program, everyone. So great to have you here. And let's just jump in with a few talking points, some discussion points we have here. One of the things I wanted to ask you guys was, what has this collaborating and making music been like during the past few months, and how is it different than a year ago at this time? Who wants to take this one?
Wow. It's been both wonderful to play this because of having to have taken so much time off from playing because of COVID. But I'm also reminded of how exhausting it was to try to play under these conditions when you're so far apart from each other, and when you have everything from masks to cameras. It's definitely a challenge to create chamber music when you have such physical distancing to do. But at the same time, it just felt so good to finally be able to play with people again.
Yeah. And I mean, you can even see on the recordings that we just watched that, some of the shots are so far apart. And, in the Brahms, for example, you saw Leah all way off to the right side of the screen. And, that's not what chamber music is supposed to be like. It's supposed to have that element of intimacy, and even small situations like this where you have 4 or 5 people present an enormous amount of challenge because everyone is spaced so far apart. But we grow, we adapt, and we've all risen up to the times that we're living in. And I'm so grateful to be able to collaborate with all of you, especially in times when we're not able to meet as a 65-person orchestra.
Scott, if I may jump in,
please.
I want to re-echo what Terry and you have been saying. It was amazing to be able to play music live with other people, and so that part was such a relief, really. But for me, it really emphasized and reminded me how much I rely on facial expressions, not just the proximity, but through my mask and my glasses, which, you know, then fog up. I'm sure everybody has that problem. Past my stand with the stand light, and then all the way across the room to try to get a nuance from Terry's finger, left hand, or her bow, made it a lot more challenging, and even the distance with the sound. So there were a lot of, I knew it would be difficult, and I'd heard from those who did the mainly Mozart concert, some of the challenges that they had, and also what an amazing concert it was. And going into there, I thought I knew what to expect, but it definitely surprised me.
Absolutely. Carol, being in the center for most of the pieces, you have a little bit less difficult time than most. Do you have any specific thoughts on how the process is for you?
Yeah, well, it's different. It's interesting because it was clear how much I rely on the proximity and the peripheral vision, not having to look over and make sure that the bows are together. You get this melding when you play close together as a regular chamber ensemble, and there are a lot of artificial things that had to happen in order to make it work. And also I felt a bit on the outside. I didn't feel surrounded by the sound the way I normally do when people are close to me, and you get a sense of your balance. And this was difficult to judge this time.
Right. Li Yuan, you have any thoughts?
Well, this is the second time I'm doing the recording project. So I thought it was going to be easier since I've done it one time, but no. Like what they said, the distance between the players really made it difficult to feel everyone's movement, how they are breathing, because we all have face masks on, can't hear each other's breath. So
right.
It was hard, but it took a while for us to get used to it. I think at the end, we all got a lot more used to it.
Okay. Great, which leads me to my next question, which is similar. But in a chamber music setting, do you all feel like there is more of a share of the leadership responsibility, or are you still heavily relying on, say, the principal first violin for most of the direction? How does this differ as far as the chamber process versus the full orchestra process for you all? Leah?
I think for comparing full orchestra with chamber music, it depends, I think, a lot on the ensemble members, and especially, I think, on your first violinist, if they prefer to do a lot of the leading, or if they want, when you have some of the more important material or just more interesting material, if they want you to sort of phrase it like you would like to. So I think we all feel a lot of leadership in both full orchestra as we're leading sections, but also in chamber music. And I think in chamber music, it's a little more heightened, and it's a little more across throughout the whole piece.
Mm-hmm. I think probably an assumption, being a string player in a full orchestra, especially if you're a section player and not in the first stands, can be a lot less stressful than, say, taking an entire texture in a chamber music setting and being responsible for an entire line of music. So I can imagine that the responsibility does quite a bit of shifting. Terry, did you want to say something?
Well, yeah, just to say that actually, in some ways, I mean, when I was in my 20s, the Boston Symphony did a study on 2D string players and stress levels, and the stress level of a 2D string player, which means someone in the midst of the section, actually came in just under air traffic controller. And the reason that was given, which I think makes complete sense, is that the thing about being in the section is that you're really only noticed when you do something wrong. You don't get the same kind of acknowledgement for doing things right that you do when you're playing on your own or when you're leading a section or in the front. So there's a sense in which it's actually more stressful to be in the middle of a section, just in that way that I mean, we're allowed as leaders or as individual players to kind of own both our mistakes and our the things that we do really well. We get to individually own. So there's a, you know, it's sort of works both ways in that way. Yeah. But yeah,
That also goes.
Yeah, go ahead, Leah.
I was just going to say that ties in with the proximity thing. When you're in the section, you're not up close to the action. And the same thing that we noticed when we were recording 6 feet or more apart.
Right. In this particular program, we'll jump to the next question now. In this particular program, are there, for you all, any special moments that you'd like our North State audience to listen for? What makes this program special for you, if there are moments for that for you?
I would like to just talk for a minute about the Klugart, because it's a
Please.
piece I've wanted to do this piece for a long time. I first came across it in the course of my work as associate director of the Humboldt Chamber Music Workshops, and it's just the last movement of the Klugart. When I first heard it, it just kind of knocked me out, and I was like, I gotta play that piece someday. And I'm very grateful to you, Scott, and North State for creating that possibility for me and for us. I do find there's a kind of a geniality to Klugart, to the whole piece, really. I think that I mean, you were talking about him a little bit before, and my take on Klugart is that part of the reason that he isn't as well known as he should be is because he was almost too nice of a guy. By all accounts, he was just very, very nice. And he actually wanted not to join one of the camps of the Brahmsians or the Wagnerians, but he wanted to kind of get along with everybody. And as we have ample opportunity to see these days, that doesn't always work. And I think it didn't work so well for him. But I just feel that there's a kind of just a kind of humanity that comes through his music, and this kind of genial quality that I just really, really enjoy. So for me, and that sense of the human is one of the things that I really like about this whole program, but maybe particularly about some of the Klugart.
Mm-hmm.
And what's not to like about a piece that has, for once, 2 cellos and not just 2 violins, right?
No, it's certainly a great piece. And as we saw in our first chamber performance last month, the quintet really has so much more textural and orchestrational possibility than a string quartet. And it's so nice to have composers who really do that and do so much experimentation and pair voices together that you wouldn't normally hear otherwise, except maybe in a full orchestra. This might be more of a question for Terry, but for everyone, when I was thinking about this program and thinking about what Gypsy music is really, and we all have these descriptors that we can ascribe to it, but what makes it sound like Gypsy music? What makes the first movement or the fourth movement of the Brahms sound Gypsy? I mean, Terry, do you have any insight on this? I mean, we all know, how all of these things came about, but are there words we can use that haven't already been said that can build more of a sphere around what this is?
Well, there is actually a particular scale that's used a lot in all of these pieces. It's actually, I guess in all of these pieces, it's G harmonic minor. The Gypsies seem to like to play in G minor a lot, but I mean, so there is just the pattern, and particularly there's a kind of like piquant quality to these. The harmonic minor scale is the one that has it has the augmented second in it. So you have this kind of almost like you have like a downward leading tone and an upward leading tone, and there's a pull between them. And so there's, I think, I mean, as you listen to the gypsiness, you hear this kind of characteristic, a little bit of a pull in both directions, I think, which is a function of actually the scale choice and that. And I think beyond that, there's also just the sonorities that especially the romantic composers tend to choose when they're in their gypsy mode. They're often either with the strings or like you hear a lot of this in the Brahms and the Schumann, you hear the piano imitating the cembalo, which is that kind of hammered dulcimer kind of instrument that is characteristic of the gypsy music. And you often hear in the classical gypsy pieces, you hear a lot of imitation of that instrument in particular that gives it that kind of gypsy-ish quality also.
Yeah. You spot on the hammer dulcimer. You know, whenever I hear, as soon as I research that, whenever I hear the piano do yada 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 yada, all I can picture is the hammer dulcimer now. So from anyone, any final thoughts on the program before I kick you guys out and invite Elizabeth Quivy to chat with me for a bit? Well, Lee Wen, please. You're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Now? I only participated in one piece in this program, but I was very glad that I was able to join the gang on this. It's such a wonderful piece. It's like listening to a small orchestra playing when this piece is being performed. So I hope the audience will enjoy this piece. This kind of unknown piece, but wonderful.
Carol, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I adore playing chamber music, and you know, I play with these wonderful people, but there is nothing really for me that takes the place of sitting in the middle of an orchestra, having all that sound around me, and I really, really miss it in spite of having a wonderful time playing this chamber music.
Well, Carol, I second that.
I think we all do, really. There is nothing like being in the middle of a big orchestra.
Leah?
I just want to say chamber music is just, I love it. And even missing the full orchestra experience, I want to thank everyone who's been putting these recordings and these virtual performances together. And I look forward to making more full orchestra music, but I feel this concert with the gypsy strings, it seems appropriate. We want to bring that just kind of raw, unfettered joy back into life. And we hope you have fun listening to it. And we had fun recording it, as crazy as it all was. And I think we just, we're going to keep on making music however we can and whenever we can. So thank you. And we hope you enjoyed the concert.
Absolutely. On that note, thank you all so much for joining us and chatting about chamber music and the program as a whole. And we look forward to the concert. So I'm going to kick you guys out, and we'll see you all soon. Okay, so now I'm going to add Elizabeth, remove. There we go. So first of all, I just wanted to say Leah was spot on talking about, the process. And what I hope to do in future pre-concert talks is actually give you all, our wonderful audience, more of a glimpse of what has been happening behind the scenes. So hopefully we'll have a short video next time about what this whole crazy recording process is actually like, and what the process after the recording weekend is like, which is really just me sitting in a room in front of a computer.
Thank you.
For hours and hours and hours and hours. And I will be I will echo again what the musicians just said, and I can't wait to get back on stage at the Cascade in Laxon, because I am tapping into skills that I didn't even know I still had.
I think if you looked up pivoting in the dictionary, that is going to be the definition right there. I think we're all taking on skills that if you'd asked me a year ago, I'd say, we're doing that? Really? Nah. But here we are, we're doing it. And I think we're doing a really good job too.
Absolutely. So, of course, I'm with Elizabeth Quivy now, our wonderful executive director. And we just wanted to reinforce how we are basically existing right now. And since we can't do subscriptions, because to have subscription, you have to have seats that are that are assigned in the subscription. So we can't have that this year. And so what the North State Symphony is doing is we've converted all of our subscriptions to memberships. But don't worry, because when we get back into the concert halls, you can have your subscription again. So you can have all of your favorite seats. But right now, hopefully you're all sitting on your couch with a glass of wine or vodka or water, whatever you would like to drink. I have water because, of course, giving a lecture does not go with vodka right now. But with these memberships, we have, it's very simple, because we have one price per household, and that's $120. And that gives you access to all of the content that we do all year long. And that's not just these public broadcasts that you're going to see on Thursday. With the North State Symphony membership, you also get exclusive bonus performances that are sent to you every month that we have a main performance. So, for example, this month, our wonderful members are going to get 3 separate pieces. One is a piece that I'm playing in on saxophone with our wonderful concertmaster Terry, and a frequent collaborator of the North State Symphony, John Chernoff. He wrote a really cool piece that's variations on "There's a Hole in My Bucket," Dear Liza, Dear Liza. So that's something that is sent to our members. So if that's not incentive enough to join as a North State Symphony member today, I don't know what is. But you also have, for example, we have another movement of the Schumann trio that you're hearing in this performance sent to our members. There's also a very special piece also written by John Chernoff called Pandemic Rag, which is super cool, and it features our concertmaster and John on piano. So in addition to that, you have a special Zoom chats that it's sort of like a happy hour where we address special topics throughout the season, and that's for our members only. So that, in addition to all the other stuff we've been doing, including our watch parties, our new series called Cracking the Score, which on a monthly basis, I'm delving into a new piece of classical music. There's a Sibelius Symphony available from October. There's a new release coming out next week on Debussy's Prélude à l'après-midi d'une faune, his very, very famous Prelude to the Afternoon of a Faun, written in 1894, that changed the course of music as we know it. We also have our Just Ask series, which used to be during intermission. Now it's online, and we're going to have amazing guests in the North State and nationwide and international throughout the season. So please tune into that. But Elizabeth, how can people get a membership?
There's a pretty direct and easy way to do it, and that is by going to www.northstatesymphony.org. And if you hover over the 2021 concert season menu item on our website, it'll drop down to a list that says how to become a member, and all the information is there. We are very grateful for our friends and partners at the University Box Office at CSU Chico for making the memberships happen for us. So no matter whether you attended a concert in Chico's Laxon Auditorium or Reading's Cascade Theater, it's all one phone number and one place and one location to get your memberships through the University Box Office. And so we appreciate their help in setting it up. And we want to thank everybody so far who has become a member of the North State Symphony. Thank you, Scott, for the screen share right there. So you're looking at our website, and somewhere in the middle, or even right there in huge letters, become a member. It'll show up for you.
Yep. So you have a huge banner that you can click on. You also have, you can go to 2021 concert season, scroll down to memberships, click on that little ditty, and it brings you to the page with all of that information, how to purchase online, over the phone, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really very simple. Also, our website is kept fairly up to date, so you can find links to all of our content on there. We are doing most of our stuff posted on YouTube. That is the primary platform, but we also have things like this pre-concert talk, which is a simulcast on Facebook, but not all of our events are that way. So make sure you check out our YouTube page and subscribe to make sure you get all of the up-to-date video content. So I'm just gonna stop that screen. So what's coming up, Elizabeth?
Well, behind the scenes, we're doing a lot of preparing for recording projects. And so in addition to everything that goes into putting these videos on social media and marketing and selling memberships and connecting with our patrons, we're sort of a music video production company right now. So we're lining up venues and audio technicians and video technicians and very detailed production schedules and making sure that it all fits into health and safety compliance for COVID-19. So it's a lot of layers to get these videos on screen and make everything happen. So we are preparing to spend a great portion of Thanksgiving break with a lot of these musicians who are on Gypsy Strings. It'll be great to see them again. And we're going to have another recording session for our December music video, which is going to showcase Beethoven.
Wonderful. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to our Beethoven project coming up because we have some special treats for everyone. Not only is our premiere on Christmas Eve, but we're going to have a special little game that's very Beethoven oriented. So you want to make sure not to miss that. And we will also have a little holiday surprise. So please tune in. And of course, our pre-concert talk for the Beethoven 250 premiere will be on the Tuesday before the concert. So that's December 22nd. Yeah. Great. So very quickly, I'm going to go through the comments and see if we have any questions or anything. We have a bunch of people saying hello. Hi, Alda.
Yes. A lot of people saying hello. It's nice to meet you
Julia. Hi, Julia. Ayako, one of our wonderful musicians, asked if this will be archived. I think she means the pre-concert talk. And yes, our pre-concert talk is available after the live feed. So it will be on YouTube. I think it will also be on Facebook, but definitely YouTube as well. Mm-hmm. Andrew Singer Swords, one of our esteemed violinist collaborators on many occasions. Let's see if there's anything else. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming and saying hi. Yes, I will say I can't wait to see all of your faces again. And again, another incentive to become a member is because we will have some very personalized happy hour Zoom sessions. So make sure you check that out. And just to remind you, if you have any questions at the entire time that I'm giving the pre-talk, please shoot them in the chat. Even if you have them after the chat or after the live chat, we will go back through and make sure that we get your question answered. So I just want to thank Elizabeth for joining us and chatting about memberships. And I think I will echo her in saying, please support the North State Symphony. Please become a member. Of course, we're always looking for sponsors to things as well. Everyone is going through this crazy pandemic-y world together. So we all have to make sure we support each other, and local businesses, arts organizations, make sure you show some love to everyone. So again, thank you so much, everyone, for coming out to this pre-concert talk for Gypsy Strings, which premieres this Thursday, November 19th at 7 p.m. on YouTube. So thank you all for coming, and we will see you on Thursday nights. Have a great evening and enjoy your drinks.
See you
Bye-bye.
Thursday.